Welcome back to the show. I'm Chad, as always. Today we have our guests, so we're going to be talking about an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's The Thing on the Doorstep. Now, for me, I've recently got into listening to the complete collection of H.P. Lovecraft's works on Audible, since it was one of the selections in the Plus catalog, and I've for the longest time I've heard about Lovecraft and I've heard about everything, but I've never really gotten into it. But this is my first foray into the Lovecraftian world. And when I saw that that Image was doing this adaptation of the story, I thought, hey, maybe we can talk to the creators. And guess what? They decided to come. So let me bring in them in, and they can introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves. And then we'll talk about the book. Hey guys, how's it going?
How are you guys?
Yeah. So before we get started talking about the book, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves as a comic book reader? Do you remember maybe the first book that you read, or and then as a creator, and then what your experience with H.P. Lovecraft has been before this, project? I'm sorry, 3 questions at once. Nothing like.
Yeah. Willie, over to you. That's great.
Okay. Hi guys. Well, I'm Willie Roberts. I'm a comic book artist since 2010, I think. And well, how I start, I draw my whole life, so it's not new. I figured out a little later that I want to become a comic book artist around 25, and I always be a comic book fan. I mean, I read a lot of books and comic books. I can tell probably my first comic book was Darkness from Top Cow. It's ironic, right? And Superman Death. That was my 2 first comics that I had. And I remember I was 8 years old, something like that. I don't recall exactly. And then, well, I remember that I was so impressed about the quality of the work inside. I think it was Greg Capullo those years. And it was a huge influence in me. And I keep working. I keep drawing my whole life until I figured out the way to make money of it. And it wasn't easy, and that man helped me a lot because I started working with Simon a lot of years ago now. I don't know, remember when exactly. Probably Simon had a better memory of that. And actually, we started working together in the Lovecraft universe. I think was one of the first projects was Cats of Ulthar, something like that. I remember.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
Yeah, that was one of our first projects together a couple of years ago, and then we keep working together for many years now. And I don't know, nothing. Everything was better when we started working together because we came with really good projects and we really enjoy our teamwork. So year by year.
I'm Simon Birks. I for the last coming up 11 years now, I've had a comics publishing company in the UK, and called Blue Fox Comics, and my first experience of comics is my nan bought me comics when I was probably 7 or 8, similar time to Willie. That was Spider-Man, and it was like the UK version of those comics, maybe a Panini print. I don't know how it works, but yeah, and I remember that. So Spider-Man is my superhero. But then that sort of a couple of years after that, didn't really look at comics at all. Did a lot of other writing. Angst-ridden poetry, plays, novels, screenplays, lots of different things. Then, but yeah, and then. It was about 2014, where I had these short film scripts sitting on a hard drive, not doing anything. I knew it was going to cost too much money to actually create them and not really generate any money. So I had the idea of, learn how to write comics and try and change these film scripts, adapt them into comic scripts. So I guess in a way that was my first sort of thing of foray into adaptation, but it was my own stuff after that. And then, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, I was just going to say, what was your first introduction to H.P. Lovecraft and his work?
Personally, in 2020, we had, because we started off Blue Fox publishing my stuff, but then we also publish other people's, other creators' work now. In 2020, we ran a Kickstarter for The Mountains of Madness. A chap called Adam Fider had adapted it and drawn it. And that just took off. I knew it was going to do well because there's a lot of fans, especially on Kickstarter. So yeah, so that did it amazingly well. And from then, really, I started reading some of the stories because I thought, okay, clearly, if there's a market there in the nicest way, it'd be nice to create some of my own adaptations and put them out there.
And Wilt, did you say how you got into Lovecraft? I know you said that you and Simon worked on some Lovecraftian stuff, but was that your first introduction to it?
No. Actually, it was the same book that Simon, In the Mountain of Madness. That was the first book I read, and it was surprised me how I was for those years, and the science fiction movie, how I was so influenced by this book, and it's pretty old. And then I think I go to Cthulhu, and then I start working with Simon in that project, and then I start reading the entire collection, right? And there's a lot of Lovecraft short stories, and I don't know if I read everything, but I read a lot. And obviously, the thing on Doorstep, that was one of my favorites, so I had to pick the essence of it. And it was amazing because first I read the Simon script, and then I read the book, and it was a beautiful adaptation. And I can see it so clearly when I got these two pieces right, the script and the book. It was like everything got to me and say, okay, I had it in my head visually, right?
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the story, the story of the thing on the doorstep, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, Thing on the Doorstep, it has a very good opening. I think one of the strong and very memorable openings and it's not spoiling it because it's literally on the first 2 or 3 pages of the adaptation as well. It's mainly to do the whole story is between Daniel Upton and Edward Darby, who form this friendship when they're younger, and that friendship continues, and then things start going awry for Edward, and it's Daniel trying to keep things together. And but right at the beginning, Daniel goes and shoots Edward in the face, and then in the story, it kind of it says the first line is, even though I just emptied a gun into my friend's face, I will tell you now that I did not kill him. And so it's interesting. You think, okay, I'm hooked. I mean, that's a great first line. So, and that's kind of the first thing. And then, I just think I think there's a lot of lines in that story which you read them and think, yes, I can build something with those lines. I can build a scene around those lines and that sort of idea. And so it just slotted together, I think, and just the way. So I still remember very vividly, sitting down, numbering all the pages and thinking, okay, how am I going to adapt this? And it kind of fell into place very well. So yeah, very happy.
I kind of like how you've, instead of them just starting off as friends, you kind of show them growing up together, which is not, particularly, I mean, it's mentioned in the story, but, you get to see more of that backstory, which is, helps, get you to that point where the story starts.
I think it's super important, and a thing that you don't see very much at the moment. But the thing that really gets you into TV programs or films is caring for the people. And if you don't see how they, met and became fast friends and good friends, and what they've been through, you wouldn't care about them. That's how I look at it. And certainly some of the later pages that Willi's drawn are just heartbreaking, and it's just fantastic. So I love making people cry. So so it's really good. So yes, indeed, it's done on purpose. This is a story of a friendship. Two men who just are there for each other. Obviously, one of the things I've added in the adaptation is while it's mentioned that he has a wife and a child, they're proper characters. They actually have some agency now. So that's that's one of the additions to it. But yeah, sorry.
I connect personally. I connect more with the relationship between Asenat and Edward because there's a lot of like a second language, right? It's not just a story about scary moments. If you read it between the lines, you can see a really disturbing relationship between the personality of Edward and how he became some kind of slave. I don't know how to express exactly Simon, but you can see that kind of evolution or involution in personality of Edward, and you can feel it as Daniel how he's trying to save him and try to help his best friend, and that's something that you can relate it these days. It's not something natural. It's something about relationship that is really important. That not too many people get that from the story, and that was one of the pieces that really hooked me up with the story. Even more the friendship. I really like how Simon managed this kind of transformation, right? And how a person is starts vanishing from that relationship. And I really like it. Yeah, I love that.
Now, one thing that it worked for me, but yeah, I kind of found, I don't want to say odd, but we all know that H.P. Lovecraft was, let's just say it, he was racist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And was that when you were you coming up with characters, was that something you wanted to kind of correct? Because I know that the main character is
Yes. Yeah, definitely. The funny thing is, this story doesn't mention anything about the characters, really, what they look like at all. But yeah, I a lot of the comics that I write, and Willi was with me on Antarctica as well, is that and one of the things I'd always say to Willi, I'm sure, is I want a diverse cast of characters. I want to see a cast of characters in a comic that I see every day. And so that's so yes, and obviously Lovecraft wouldn't be so happy, but that's okay. It's okay. No, it's okay. I mean, the thing is, it's great to be able to have these stories and to bring these stories up to modern day, in that sort of way.
So, Will, when you were coming up with character designs, how did you go about that? Working with Simon.
Well, he was with the script. It's like you can see how the characters are and the pose, the gesture they use, and I think we have to create that kind of feeling with Edward. It was most challenging because it was like you have to show up a person who can be really, weak in some ways, right? It's like he can defend himself, and we try to capture that with his eyes, his expression. Sometimes you see the poster is like always like this, and there was a change. And what was really cool was, I don't want to spoil too much from the comic book, even if the story is already there for many years. You see these kind of changes in Edward to the comics when it's not himself, and that was really funny to work with. And then we had to design Asana, which was pretty cool because we tried to capture all the universe of Lovecraft, right? Because it's more than all these kind of strange people that you see in culture, right? And we try to bring that in that character. And then where it was, of course, I already knew that about Lovecraft, and he was a racist. So when he came with the idea of making a black person, say, okay, it's gonna be good because it's like modernized a little bit and give something fresh to the story. And I totally agree, of course.
Yeah. And Willi is fantastic at coming up with characters. I have to say, the characters you see are generally, I think they are just the characters that Willi says, "Hey, I've got this design for the character," and I generally say, "That's fantastic." Yeah, and so that's absolutely lovely. So, and I remember, I think when when I asked Willi to do a thing on the doorstep, I think, and he was very excited for it, and I think it's really nice, and he brings, a passion, not only for drawing, but for the Cthulhu mythos and everything like that. So it's really, I think that's embedded into the comic, and that's one of the things that makes it so good.
Yeah, we tried to capture that feeling of, even if it's a comic book, you're inside Lovecraft universe, right? You can read it, right? And I talked with Simon that we should make about the artwork, try to make like oil painting, right? And makes this kind of texture, and try to use some particular colors, and try to bring a little, like a piece of work, right? Like you can see in a museum, right? Like a painting, something like that. And he told me that he was totally agree, but he always gave me that freedom to say, okay, bring me this, not like he had a resume. It's like, do whatever you want. You have these tips to create the character, but it's give me the freedom to bring with concept and all that. But I think it was always said in the podcast the other day that this was one of those projects that everything comes so easily, so naturally. It's not like we struggled so much to adapt the story. It's like, you give me this brief, I send the sketches and the concept, and we should start working on that. And it was super natural. It was evolving so naturally. And it was one of the comics that I already worked in my life, and was enjoying, because it was super. I was so connected with Lovecraft. I was reading all his books, and those first issues, it was like super into the universe. So I think you can see that in the artwork and the style comics.
Now, when you're doing an adaptation like this, is there, and you have like a very, I don't want to say narrow kind of sandbox to play in, how much wiggle room do you have? For example, providing the backstory of the relationship.
Well, the thing on the doorstep, the thing about the thing on the doorstep is that we developed it first for Blue Fox Comics, and so we published it first, and then Top Cow came along and said, we really like that, we'd like to publish this. So in that sense, because I did it for Blue Fox and that's how it was developed, I had complete control over what I wanted to put in there and what I didn't want. I think it's very, it really, if you read the story and read the comic, everything's kind of there. I think it's just the only thing there is we've added bits with Clara and with Edward Jr., but apart from that, and some interesting things at the end. But so it's good. It's good. I mean, I put everything I think which is in the story, in Lovecraft story, into the comic. So I don't feel I think it's a pretty good adaptation in that sense, as well as also being more expansive. So.
Did you have to run it by like the Lovecraftian estate or whatever?
No, it's in whatever the words are now, public domain.
Public. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So that's why there's so much of it about on Kickstarter or crowdfunding platforms, is because it's available. So.
Okay. I know. I know you said things. Were pretty easy throughout the project, but was there any challenges that you guys faced that you weren't expecting, or kind of?
Well, it's really hard to work on horror in a graphic novel, because when you see a movie that is horror, you have a lot of elements that you don't have when you have to draw it, because you don't have sound, you don't have movement, you don't have all the pieces that they bring you to that kind of feeling, right? So you had to create it in a different way. So, and that was pretty challenging, because there was a couple of scenes that Simon described me, what is happening, and it was tricky to create that tension, right? Because you have to choose wisely what to show and what to not showing, and take our time to create that tension. And I remember there was I don't remember what the scene, but there was one that you had to change a little bit, to create this kind of camera movement, like getting closer to a room, and then because you don't have, you can surprise, you can make a scary shot because, but you can create something equal. This is probably the most important thing to do with horror. It's like, in my case, I try to print some of the images that you can close the comic and you keep thinking in that image, right?
Yeah.
Like you go to the bed and say, okay, I remember that panel, that page, it was super hot.
Yeah.
And that was something that it always came so easily for me. It's like something that I really enjoy, to create this kind of image distortion.
I remember you and me, Woody, was sitting with Mark Silvestri and at that dinner, and he was saying just how much the thing creeped him out. He really likes it. He said it's. He said, he said it. It's really hard to do that sort of horrible creepiness, and he said, it's got it in there. So.
Yeah. I think it's one of the Arsenal in the window or something like that.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I remember now.
In your guys' opinions, what is it about Lovecraft that makes kind of his stories feel timeless? Or, I guess that's what I want to say.
Yeah. Well, I think, he has elder gods, these massive creatures, either far off in space or under the water. It's the unknown. And I think, dare I say it, there's a lot of people's beliefs in the whole world are of the unknown, so it's just another one. But it's quite an expansive mythos as well, and it it riffs on other people, and other people also sort of wrote about it and wrote around it. So I think it's got that sort of width to it as well. So I think that's one of the things, and just something over there, trying to make you go mad. Honestly, it sounds like every day, doesn't it? But it's So I think so. I think there's
especially here in the States.
Saying nothing.
Yeah, I think Lovecraft was one of those writers who probably don't get that recognition in his time, because if you take now Stephen King works and you see many adaptations. And if you hear talking about Lovecraft, he say he's one of the biggest influences in his life. And even now with the Welcome to Derry series, there was some of the Lovecraft with Pennywise and all these origins of the creature. And I don't remember if there's someone before Lovecraft creating all this kind of cosmic horror. I think he was one of the first one. So in the Alien, the first movie, there's a lot of Lovecraft too. And this is, and Ridley Scott said a lot of times, and if you keep seeing in the entire story of horror movies, there's a lot of Lovecraft there.
I think for me, it's also one of the first times that there's a larger, throughout his works, they're all tied together through the Necronomicon and all that, and it's not like it's shoehorned into it. Flows organically, and it's like a mention here and mention there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's what a lot of the TV shows or Marvel universes of the world. The word universe is throughout the modern day media. So this was a Cthulhu mythos universe, and so almost one of the blueprints for it, I guess. So yeah.
So Simon, when you're writing horror, besides Lovecraft, are there any other influences or people that whose approach to the genre that you enjoy?
As Woody said, Stephen King is always been a big Stephen King fan in reading. Apart from that, probably. But things like I love The Thing and things like Lord John Carpenter sort of stuff. I enjoy, and that creeps in there. It's just as I said before, my stuff really needs to. I want to be character driven. So if it's going, anything I write, you're going to get the characters first, and then we're going to, then things are going to start happening to them. So it's not so much, it's not jump scares. It's that sort of, it's just weirdness. Yeah, weirdness of everything. So yeah.
And Will, from an art perspective, are there any other artists who do horror type stories that you kind of look at and?
Well, yeah, it's pretty tricky because it's kind of hard to just stay in that genre, right? Okay, I'm gonna just make horror story because probably you don't get that lot of show. You have to adapt to other projects, right? So there's a lot of artists who maybe one horror comic, but then go to superheroes, supernatural, or sci-fi. Actually, when we worked on Antarctica, that was the first time we worked in sci-fi, right? We already work in horror, and, and there was a podcast the other day, and they asked me like, how was to start working on horror because it was really different from Antarctica, and I say we worked with Simon for years in horror. It's like our thing. Antarctica was the outside the box project. Yeah. We communicate so much better with horror stories than any other kind of stories. That's for sure. And about artists, I don't know that there's a lot of comic books now, like Something is Killing the Children, and I hope this was keep going, right? I would love to have more horror stories, comic books. I love superheroes and sci-fi and all that, but there's something about the horror stories that you can create 5 issues and make a wonderful story and finish there, and that's it. You don't have to create multiverse of this. You can create just in a short story, and that will be amazing and unforgettable. I think that's why I love horror.
And are there any, both of you, are there any other Lovecraft stories that you would like to work on adapting to the comic book format?
Simon?
I have done an adaptation of The Shadow over Innsmouth. So that, I mean, again, we did The Cats of Ulthar, which is a short. We did one, and then I've done The Statement of Randolph Carter as well as a short comic. So I think just maybe small. Oh, I'm doing Cool Air. What am I saying? I'm doing Cool Air. So there's a short story, Lovecraft, which again is another story which is devoid of women. So basically, I've now adapted that, and I've moved it from America to Spain, and it's really centered around 3 women, and so I'm really enjoying doing that. So I'm doing that at the moment. Issue 3 is being drawn, and so yes, there are things I'll tend to have a look and then think, okay, what can I bring to this? I think that's the important thing. What can I bring? How can it live in me? And then and then move forward like that.
And Will?
No, I'm working on other projects, but not horror for now.
Okay.
It is sci-fi. I'm working on the Last Starfighter part, right? The adaptation from arcade that is going to be out in June. I don't remember what day, but it's going to be first issue there and some other personal project. But we don't have plans to work in horror for. We have to sign on some things under the table.
We definitely do.
Yeah, something creepy inside. Yeah. On the bottom of the table, but we had to figure out how it can work.
We got to pitch it. So yeah.
It's not easy, man. It's not easy to present a comic book to a publisher and take it. It's not nice because you have to keep working a lot of years to get that, incoming project, and it's not easy because the market goes up and down all the time, and we have a super amazing year in 2024 when we both go to San Diego and we present Antarctica, and we have go down to 2025, and then we now climbing up again. So it's like like a mountain of madness.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
Well, and it's just a 4-issue, 5-issue,
Yeah, 5-issue.
5-issue. Okay, I wasn't sure as to how, what the length of it was, but so as we kind of wrap up here, anything else that you'd like to say about the series, or if you want to promote anything, let people know where they can find you. If you're on the social medias, then now's the time to do that.
Yeah, myself, I'm Birks writer because why make it easy for people? So on Instagram and Blue Sky, and also Blue Fox Comics, that's a lot easier on Instagram and Blue Sky. So.
Yeah, I think I've tagged you a couple times, and when you were doing your crowdfunding, we do a weekly. I do a weekly roundup of the projects, and I found yours, and so
yeah. I mean, we're about to launch our 90th Kickstarter, so it gives you some idea. We're busy people.
Well, I don't know, I'm working now with Top Cow and talking about the thing on the door to finish the project that we already finished a couple that long time ago. It's good to back because I don't read it for a long time, and then with all this I had to pick it up again and refresh all the feelings from that when we worked together on that. And like I say, I'm gonna be on the Last Fighter in June. There's gonna be a lot of expectation about that because it's a franchise that many people love, including Simon.
Yeah, don't screw it up. Don't screw it up.
There's a lot of things there's a lot of people waiting for that sequel, and I'm super excited. The hype is really, really big. Then I hope, I'm not sure, but I want to be in San Diego this year promoting the thing on the Doorstep and the Last Fighter. I hope everything goes well, but probably I'm going to be there. And there's a lot of projects. I don't know if they're coming this year, but there's a lot of things kind of feeling that there's something new is going to be this year, new projects, but I don't know yet. There's nothing yet.
I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to chat with us. And Simon, when you launch your Kickstarter, would love to chat with you about that and help you promote that. And Will, if you ever have anything you'd like to talk about, let's sit down again and we'll.
You can find my work on my Instagram. This is all I use, right? In my Twitter, but probably Instagram is my platform. You can find me with the Robert Sarts, and there's a lot of things that I could be uploading, like artwork and all that. You can find me there and text me if you want to. I'm open to any comments.
And when does the first issue drop?
February the 11th.
February the 11th. Okay. So if you're watching this, don't miss it. It's the first issue is really great, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to read the rest of it. Again, have a great rest of your day, guys, and thank you again.
Thank you for reading. Thank you.